Well, hey there, Jason. It's our favorite time of the week again.
Yes, it is the favorite time of the week. Rather cold, but
You
still
look a
the
little
favorite time
chilly
of the
out
week.
there. You look like you're out where the person behind me is. Um, I don't know about you, but we have definitely been experiencing, what is it, our third winter now? Is that what they're calling it?
Yeah, it sure
And,
feels like
you
that.
know,
Whew.
geesh, I'm ready for spring. Hello, spring, where are
I
you?
know. Come on, the date is belying what the weather is giving us,
Mm-hmm,
and I guess we
mm-hmm.
should be used to that every once in a while. But
Yeah.
yes, Kathy, definitely really cold. Experiencing the last couple of days around here. Definitely making sure paying attention to what we're doing as far as how I'm getting ready to get going in the morning and stuff because it gets
Mm-hmm.
so cold. I did head out for basketball the other morning when it was pretty cold, and you know what I did? I forgot that I just had my basketball shorts on, and I went running out to the car to get ready to go, and it was pretty cold, very cold. So
Burr. Yeah.
yes, I was not prepared.
With this being our third winter of the season, I
Yeah.
think we might have learned some lessons, and I thought today might be a good day for us to go over some of those lessons maybe we learned, and hopefully not the hard way.
Yeah,
Hopefully we learned them because we
know,
heard them, people repeating things over and over to us, and
yeah.
through experience that wasn't too hard on us.
Well, this gives us a really good chance to to remind individuals, especially as it's yeah, we're kind of getting out of winter and we're getting into springtime, so we're going to be having some nicer weather, but we still get that last little hit of winter, and it's happening right now, and so reminding individuals of maybe some tips or some reminders of how to get going safely while we're riding on public transit. We want people to continue to ride public transit. Our buses have been doing the best they can to all stay on route during this cold weather and be available for people. And so hence there's availability there for people to be able to keep riding, but we want you to do it safely and comfortably. And Kathy, one of the first things I want to start talking to you about is really what do we do when we see the weather's coming up, we know that we have to go somewhere the next day, and it might seem a little daunting at first, like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? It's going to be snowy, it's going to be hard to get around. What do I do? I don't
Well,
know.
I know that, for example, before this latest winter storm hit, the day before, I started to see all over the place. Every source of information I was getting was pumping
Yeah,
information at me to be prepared, and warnings that we were going to have some weather, and that we needed to take some actions to be prepared and be ready for it. And so,
yeah,
the first thing that you got to do is not ignore those things,
right,
and
right.
build some planning into your schedule. Look at your schedule the night before. Make sure you plan some extra time and some alternatives. Maybe call your boss ahead of time and say, hey, if this storm turns into what they're saying it's going to be,
Yeah,
by when would you like me to check in to make sure you need me
right.
to try and come in through the weather? Because some of the warnings we got were don't get on the road in any way if
Sure.
you don't have to, and that includes taking public transit or walking
Right.
or biking. you know don't get in your own car. They want you to stay off the road because the situation just gets more complicated, more people that are out there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Kathy, when we get going right in the morning, there's congestions of all types and so forth. And even during heavy snow and everything, we have to recognize there's still traffic out there. There's still people who are
Mm-hmm.
still trying to drive around and so forth, which
Mm-hmm.
then delays certain buses perhaps or other
Sure.
forms of public transportation. So it's
Mm-hmm.
important that I think you're saying that is you really want to plan and ensure that you give yourself enough time. we
Right.
we we say that in the best of circumstances, right? Give yourself a
Mm-hmm.
few extra minutes. We actually spoke to a friend of ours last week, right? And
Right.
he planned a whole, what was it, one full
A
day
whole extra day
because he
because
was
of the
traveling
length
so
of his
far.
trip. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
and we don't
Yeah.
advocate, for the whole day, but usually it's like, why don't you plan an extra hour? Have a backup
Mm-hmm.
plan. But in this case of inclement weather, you definitely want to make sure that you give yourself plenty of time.
Right. Well, because your walking around is going to be slower. So your walk to the bus stop, if you're taking the
Yeah.
bus, is going to be slower. I was at a conference just last week in Sun River, and it was really fun to see a sign that reminded people if it's icy, Jason, you're going to remember this because we did a whole show about it.
Yeah.
Walk like a penguin. And I thought,
Yes.
that's right. I remember that. Walk like a penguin. And if you're walking like a penguin, you're walking a little slower than you normally would because your steps are a lot smaller and you're keeping your balance over your one leg rather than, leaning into or
Right.
behind your steps.
You
And
know,
so
doctors have said that, walking is basically like a controlled crash every single step. So yeah, we definitely don't want you walking your normal stride during these icy and cold events. Yes, like Kathy says, walk like a penguin. It might look funny, but it will save your bum in the long run. Hey, that
yes.
kind of rhymed, if you noticed.
Yes, yeah, good job. Good job, Jason.
But Kathy, what happens next? Next thing I kind of want to talk about is, so we just now encouraged people to make, hey, you can get out there if you walk like a penguin, give yourself a little extra time and stuff. You can get out there and effectively commute on public transit. But what happens when we're waiting for that bus and there's a few people there and stuff, and it gets a little crowded at those stops, especially like on inclement weather days where people are all usually trying to kind of file themselves into one time period or whatever. But when we have icy weather where there's, it's slippery out there for other people, it's slippery out there for other vehicles and other, cars and bicycles that are out there, and including our buses, right? So it's a little slippery. So we have to give them a little more space, right? We have to ensure that we give people more space so that we can be safer and they can be safer. Is that really a good way to go about your day when we're starting to work into inclement weather at all, by any chance?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's several different factors that you can think of in there. I mean, if you're all huddled together and you're all trying to push into the bus at the same time and one person loses their footing, well, if you're all really close together, you're all coming down like dominoes. And so,
Yes.
that's one of those things. You want to make sure you're giving yourself and your neighbors some space so that, sometimes it's not a good idea to try and catch the person in front of you as they're falling. You want to, maybe cushion their fall somewhat, but if you're going to catch them with all of your body, then you might be going down too.
So Kathy, I got a quick story on that really quick. This has nothing to do with ice, but it has something to do with roller skating, with which I'm not very good at. But if you know, roller skating is similar, right, to be on the ice, right? You're just rolling around, different means of mobility. Of course, moving over here to Astoria, we had a little roller rink there. I'd never roller skated before, and as a kid, I'm like, I'm going to go do it. So I got out there and tried to roll, and I couldn't figure out how to stop, and I ran into a big group of people. And I kind of can see the similarities there, right? You don't want to be that person who's
that cartoon bowling ball. You just were that,
Exactly. And I felt really bad. It didn't matter if they were laughing at me. I was worried that I might have hurt them. But thankfully we all got up and walked away. We were young once.
Right. Yes. Well, and just before we move on to our next tip about, being safe when inclement weather, I just want to add that, we're talking about this particular one where it concerns people and giving each other space as far as lining up and being in lines and boarding the bus. And we want to leave room for the bus, as Jason said, because inclement weather, they might hit an icy patch. So we want to leave the room. Imagine that yellow line that, we all know is there on train tracks that you have to stay behind before you board the train. But also, give each other that space. So that imagine that line, stay back, give each other room. But if you're driving a car, you also want to leave more room between you and the next car in front of you than you normally would. You're always supposed to leave some space. Don't be that person tailgating.
Oh, please don't.
Especially if it's icy or it might be icy out there, leave yourself that space. An extra car's length worth of space, so that if the car in front of you does start to slide, you don't become part of that slide and what's going on. And if they're spinning out, you don't get hit by the spin out, so that you can stay out of the way and stay safe.
Yeah, that is so good. I'm glad you brought that up, Kathy, because even, I was driving in this morning. I was going to start out by riding my bicycle this morning. I thought I could get away with it. But 3 inches of snow out where I live wasn't gonna happen. But yeah, I did end up, driving. And when I did have someone in front of me, I do, practice, that extra distance, and I did that. My mind instantly went to saying, okay, what's a step that I can do to protect myself and others while I'm driving on the road? And one of those best steps is to ensure that you have plenty of space between you and the other vehicle or other obstacles, that
Mm-hmm.
you could stop safely if you have to at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's a really good tip to give to people, Kathy.
Right. Yeah. We need to leave each other that space. And then, on the same kind of note as what we were talking about, one of our
Yeah,
other tips that we've got is, you know, to be careful when you're, changing your weight, which in this case, when we're talking about getting on a bus, is you're changing the weight in your momentum by,
right.
from going forward to going up and forward. And that is
Yep.
a ideal time that you could lose your balance. So,
It's so easy to lose your balance at that time. I do a lot of travel training, so I do a lot of assessment of other individuals' mobilities, and
mhm,
I travel train and work with people, older adults, and some with disabilities, and their balance is already, kind of not really up to where it should be, and so there's a lot of practice that needs to happen. So when I do get a chance to work with people when it's, mostly when it's rainy out and so forth, we spend a lot of time on reminding ourselves that we want to make sure we have at least 3 points of contact at all times, which is we have on buses, there's two handrails, one on your right, one on your left. And of
mhm,
course, we hope, that your feet and your legs are on solid ground to start out with before you hit the bus. And then when you step up onto the bus, that you make sure that your full foot is on the step. A lot of people make a
mhm.
mistake and put only half a foot on there, and that's kind of hard for them. But the most important part though is to have those two hands up there, and especially when it's
Right.
icy out, one hand is not going to be enough to what they call is to arrest your fall.
Mhm.
And the last thing we want is somebody attempting to get onto the bus and forgetting to put two hands on the rail and pull up and just get that one. And if you're holding that coffee in your right hand, it's going bye-bye.
Mhm.
So
Well,
keep
and to
two
translate, yeah,
hands.
yeah, that's a great point, and we definitely have to remember to keep those points of contact, and to translate that into the way that I think of it as far as is if you're driving,
Yeah,
you
no
know,
kidding.
don't tie your hands behind your back by not clearing your car completely. You don't
Hmm.
just scrape a little window in your windshield out that you can see out of and
Right.
then
Yep.
go. You got to clear your whole car. I mean, we don't get
Yeah.
this out here all that often,
Sure.
but I know that when I lived on the East Coast, there was frequently, you needed an extra few minutes every day if it was snowing because you had to clear your whole
Yeah.
car of snow, and that means shoveling it all off the top so that if you stop you don't end up with a windshield full of snow. I
Yep.
mean, clear all your points of vision so that you can see and you're not limiting your ability to be as safe as you possibly can
And
by
again,
only having a tunnel that you're looking out of.
yeah, and again, that goes back to that time thing. Give yourself plenty of
Mhm.
time to get out there and scrape that snow off. My defroster doesn't work really well in my vehicle at times, so I have to give it just a few extra minutes to warm up.
Mhm.
Take the time to get your vehicle warmed up. Take the time to ensure
Scrape
that you've
that
got,
windshield.
yeah, scrape the
Mhm.
windshield. Make sure that the fog is off your. 'Cause that's another thing. Yeah, you get that little circle that people tend to look through.
Mhm.
And so just take the time to do things the right way so that you can start off safe and then arrive safe. So
Right.
that's excellent,
Exactly.
Kathy. But
Which while
yeah,
you're doing that and you're out
yes.
and you're getting the exercise while you're
Oh,
clearing and scraping your car
yes.
off, you know what else
Mhm.
that helps you with?
Well, it sure kind of keeps you a little warm, I would hope. Kind of
Yes.
exercises you a little bit. Is that where you were going, Kathy?
Yeah. And while you're doing that, if you've got your car on, the car inside is warming up already.
Yeah.
So when you get in, you're nice and warm. But you've got to dress right for what you're doing outside
Yeah.
so that you can be and stay safe and warm the whole process. I knew Jason had a good safe and warm example for us.
Yeah, I always like to bring props, Kathy, and
Mhm.
and and you know, and these props were used actually just
Mhm.
a minute ago before the show when I was walking around outside, going between offices. It's cold enough for my little ears, and my rather balding head, to get kind of cold out there and that wind breeze and all that stuff, but especially starting out, it was really difficult this morning for me. My hands get really cold, so I
Mhm.
wanted to make sure, as I was, like you were saying, right, scraping the windshield, ensuring that everything's ready to go and stuff like that. Yeah, I get you a little bit of that aerobic exercise, but having this squared up and even having my hood over the top of this, I mean, hey, it kept me kind of warm, so I was really
Yeah,
happy about that. And
it's
for those of you
important.
who, believe it or not, I did see a cyclist this morning. I tried to cycle, but I couldn't do it. But this kind of stuff, you can't do it in this, this degree of weather without some sort of, really good gear that can keep you nice and warm. So
Mhm.
please make
Mhm.
sure that as you are attempting to get out and be a part of the commuting public during inclement and cold weather, whether it's rainy, whether it's
Mhm.
freezing outside and stuff, that you have the proper mindset of ensuring that you can keep yourself safe and productive inside whatever you're operating, a vehicle, a bicycle, or whether or not you're just walking down the road trying to catch the bus. You want to make sure that you're nice and warm and comfortable, because otherwise
And
you're not.
right, and staying bright and being seen. And if you
Right.
happen to have seen Jason and I at the
Hmm.
last event that we did together, you may have received one of these fun hats. Oh, it was there and now it's gone. One of these
There it
fun
is.
hats that
Yeah.
has the reflective stripes on it.
High vis.
Now's the time that I'd love to see people out there dig out those bags of goodies that you got
Yeah.
and find the hat. Make sure you're wearing your hats while you're out there. Nice reflective stripe on them keeps you seen so that, it gets darker earlier when it's cold and stormy like this. So
Yeah,
make sure
definitely.
you are staying safe by being seen and warm and dry.
And Kathy, I'm just so thankful that you brought that up there, because yes, that's the biggest thing. Especially people that are out, commuting on foot or on bicycle. We not only keeping yourself warm, comfortable, and safe, but man, please wear that high vis stuff. The cyclist I saw this morning was not in high vis stuff. I don't know who this person is. One of these days, I'm going to stop and I'm just going to throw a bunch of high vis stuff out at him. But
Let's
but
not throw it at him,
we
Jason.
won't
That
we
might
won't
not
throw
be
it at him.
safe.
No, I will stop and maybe have a good conversation with them. But
But
the
on
thing
that
is,
note, let's
yes,
wrap up our
yeah,
tips, because we've got one last really good one, and it's
yes,
really important. And we bring this up all the time,
we
and we're
do.
going to do a whole show about them here soon. But
Yes,
it's super important before you put your jacket on to head out the door,
yep.
whatever means you're using to get to where you're going. What do you got to do, Jason?
It's all about knowledge. It's
Mm-hmm.
all about information, and it's all
Mm-hmm.
about being prepared, right? So we
Right.
want to check what we're going to have to go through, what we're looking forward to, right? And you can do
Mm-hmm.
that through things such as tripcheck.com. I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
most people, Kathy, may have heard about tripcheck.com, but please go check it
Super,
out.
super important.
Absolutely.
Tripcheck.com. So many people were using it today.
Yes,
The
absolutely.
servers were actually getting a little overloaded, which was a
Oh,
little,
no,
it actually made me happy to hear that,
that is
because,
good.
that means people were actually using it. So keep
Yeah.
doing that, folks, because the more you do it, the better the information that is on there is going to be.
Yep. Absolutely. And another thing too, you could go to our website even, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not as robust as TripCheck. TripCheck will show you pictures of what the roads
Mm-hmm.
look like, but you can go to our website and double check this. We had to cancel the Portland route today. We canceled
Mm-hmm.
all routes to Portland today. Well, for
Mm-hmm.
those who needed to get there, it's a good idea for you to go on there and check on the website, because we had it posted that indeed that was canceled today, and so you could have made alternate
For
times
the storm, not
for the
today.
storm. Yes, right, for the storm.
Not,
So
not today.
it was definitely something that you would want to make sure you go and check and see what the status is of all the routes and everything as these weathers, because we have to react to them as a transit district.
Mm-hmm.
It's we can't just every day say, oh, we're going to definitely have everything perfect tomorrow, because we don't know what the weather will hold.
Right.
So go check our website.
And on that note, so if you happen to use our system and the Point Bus or the Tillamook County Transit District buses or
Right.
Columbia County's buses, and you don't have the time, you just don't want to start at each individual transit district's place, you can also make sure that you click on the 3 buttons on the Northwest Transportation Options Facebook page. Click on those
Right.
3 buttons.
That's right.
That little key tip, button up there
Yeah.
and choose follow and get notifications so that you can get notifications when we post things, when we do that work for you and get you updates. It's a good
Yes,
place to start. Will
it
it have
is.
always have all of the information? That's impossible.
Sure.
However, it will have lots of information. It is valuable information. So click on those 3 dots and follow Northwest Transportation Options Facebook page.
So everything that we've talked about today here is all about doing everything to give you confidence that you can still get around in bad weather.
Exactly.
But we want
We
you
don't
to be
want you to be
safe while doing
stuck.
it. Yes, we don't want you to be stuck. We want you to be safe. So if you're out there braving the weather continually right now and using public transit or using vehicles out there and so forth, please be safe, everybody. That's all this show is about
Absolutely.
today, is to keep
Yep.
you safe and to have a good conversation about that.
Yes. So hopefully we can get past this 3rd winter and start to
Yes.
get into spring. It'd be
Oh,
great if we
yes.
can skip over the mud season.
It
I
would
know
be nice.
everybody's seen that meme. I'd love to skip over that season and head right into spring.
That would be
Just putting
nice.
it out there.
Yes. We'll see if we can make that happen, Kathy.
All right.
Well, it's been a pleasure seeing you today, Kathy. And as
Mm-hmm.
always, favorite time of the month, or not month, time of the week.
Month? Yes. We don't do this monthly,
No,
Jason.
we
Have you
don't. We do it every
forgotten?
week. We do it every week. And it's so much fun.
Excellent. Yes. So everybody have a great weekend.
Yes.
Catch
You
Fisher
too.
Poets up in Astoria if you're around. Those are always events not to miss. Jason, if you've never been to those, you are really missing out.
I must be missing out, and I might have to get that in the old noggin.
Seriously, you would really love some of those events. So,
well, thanks for the tip, Kathy. We'll
all
give it a
right.
shot. All right,
Okay.
everybody. Take
Everybody have a
care.
good weekend.
Be safe.
All right.